I was just going to say that we couldn't be any farther from New York City right now, live, of course, in Hancock County, talking about that all-important Warsaw Bicentennial at, who knew it, a real Chuckwagon. I'm joined now by the camp cook, Ernie, this morning. We're cooking up some side pork and cowboy potatoes this morning. What else was on a regular menu for someone riding along the cattle trail with the Chuckwagon?
Of course, they had to have food that was non-perishables, and they used a lot of beans, would be probably one of the main meals. Side pork would keep, a salted pork, and sometimes they'd butcher along the way and for the fresh beef, and they might even bring along some chickens or whatever they could to get their food source.
Well, I'm thinking about people that are waking up with their Frosted Flakes and cereal this morning. I bet they're drooling over this kind of stuff, but this is really something that they had along the wagon trail as far as the cattle drives and that such. Potatoes kept, beans kept. They were just they were looking for things that wouldn't spoil. Exactly right.
A lot of cornmeal and things like that, sugar, and our cowboy coffee.
Oh yeah, and I hear it's stout. I'm going to don my cowboy hat now and talk to Wrangler Bill. Now, Wrangler Bill has been doing some reenactments like this his entire life. How did you get started in this?
Well, I inherited the love of these old wooden wheel wagons back when I was a kid. It was when my mother was carrying my baby brother. She wanted to get me from underfoot, so she put me on that wagon seat and she said, "You ride the milk route."
Ride the milk route? What did that mean?
That means you go out in the country and pick up milk cans with a wagon, haul them to the local creamery, and that was the way they got the milk supply to the creamery in those years.
So this is one of the highlights that you're going to be able to see at the Warsaw Bicentennial. What era are we reenacting right now?
I would say 1865 through about 1875.
Sort of the height of the cattle drives across the West.
That's correct. And when the railroad started to crisscross the country, that was the end of the cattle drives.
Okay, so one thing that, I guess we got stout coffee. What was the other kind of main menu items that maybe the cowboys found a little bit more appetizing than others?
Well, if they found fruit on the way, they would love to bake it. They would have their cooked baked pies. I mean, they weren't, quite as nice as our pies that we can bake today, but they had flour, and they had those, they take advantage of fresh fruit, wild fruit, wild berries perhaps, such as that.
Well, I'm telling you what, guys, if you are interested in eating from a real Chuckwagon, we're going to be taste testing some of this right in the next half hour or so. But if you're interested in sampling it for yourself, they're going to be at the Warsaw Bicentennial this weekend. Of course, Warsaw established back in 1812 with the establishment of Fort Johnson. Fort Johnson wasn't around very long because the Indians pushed in and the soldiers ended up burning the fort in order to keep the Indians from using it. Warsaw's got such a long history, and we're going to be delving into some of that and what you can see this weekend at the Warsaw Bicentennial coming up in the next half hour.
Do you get to ring the dinner bell or the breakfast bell, and are you going to try the cowboy coffee?
Well, okay, you guys kind of spoiled my coffee experience before, so they asked me, and I did tell them that you ruined my experience, so I may try it.
You should.
As for the dinner bell, we are going to ring that, and it's going to be awesome.
Good, we're
going to wait until people start getting up because it might be a little loud.
Wake up all of Hancock County, and they're going to come for their vittles.
The Chuckwagon. You're going to have people over there for breakfast in about 20 minutes, Mel.
Start cooking.
I think so, especially if they start smelling it.
Yeah. Start cooking just about anything.
5:53 is your time. This is an eagle eye view of Miss Melissa Shriver. She is out there getting ready for the Warsaw Bicentennial celebration. Having a lot of fun camping this morning.
She's the one without the hat, by the way.
Although earlier she had one on, it would have been hard to pick her out of that crowd.
Yeah, I don't know why she ditched the hat.
There were two without hats.
There were.
I think.
One was Melissa and one was a man.
A man.
The fire is hot, the kettle is on in Hancock County, where everyone is gearing up for Warsaw's big bicentennial celebration.
That's where we're finding KHQA's Melissa Shriver this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm telling you what, the smells, of course we always talk about smell-o-vision. This needs a smell-o-vision. We've got side of pork, cowboy eggs, and potatoes. We've of course just put on some cheese. I'm here with the camp chef, or the camp cook, Ernie. We're also talking about this bread with cinnamon. Oh, Everything smells delightful. Can I have some?
You bet you can.
He said he stirs it all together. This is the cowboy way. Why is this the way the cowboys did it?
Well, you know, we got to keep things as simple and basic as you can out on the trail, and the less utensils that we use, and we didn't have a lot of utensils, so we kept it basic and simple and enjoyable for the crew.
Oh yeah, and this is something that people can sample during the Bicentennial this weekend. What other things that can people sample?
We're going to have fresh corn on the cob that just coming ripe this week down in Warsaw.
Ooh, nice.
We'll have some baked beans. We're going to have a beef fajitas. We're going to do some pork fajitas about Sunday. We've got some musicians going to be there playing some old country cowboy music, and it's going to be a wonderful weekend in Warsaw.
Wonderful, and this is stuff, of course, legitimately cooked over an open fire on a chuck wagon this morning. For more on a little bit of the life of a folk who rode on the chuck wagon during those cattle drives, I'm turning to Wrangler Bill. He's been reenacting chuck wagons basically all of his life. What was life like for someone who drove this kind of wagon and cooked up meals like this for cowboys every day?
Well, I don't know what to say here.
Long hours, you said.
Long hours, yeah. There's hard work, dirty, dusty, but it was a way of life.
Wrangler Bill told me that these guys that drove this wagon were actually the first to get on the trail in the morning and the last to go to bed, so they were working off very little sleep, had a lot of work. Why would somebody do this?
Well, biggest part of the people that did this were rural people, and rural people like rural life, so that's how they got into it.
And this is an era that we're reenacting this morning from like 1865 to 1880. Of course, we're doing all of this to preview the Warsaw Bicentennial, which is going to serve up history from 1812 until 2012, obviously. Warsaw was established with the building of Fort Johnson back in 1812. I'm joined now by Joe Clark. He's one of the organizers of the Bicentennial this year. Why was Warsaw so important in history?
Warsaw's point along the bluff on the Mississippi River was very important to the protection of the westward expansion of the United States at the time. The Native Americans and also the British were trying to flank into the armies of the young United States. So it was very important. The Des Moines River and the Mississippi River converged right at Warsaw, and the rapids made it impossible for northern travel by the riverboats that were supplying the northern forts up along the Canadian border and farther north. So it's very important to keep that protected.
And one thing you may not know in the tri-states is that Warsaw has links to President Zachary Taylor. It also has links to Mark Twain, all sorts of different famous people from throughout U.S. history. It was also a very important fur trading town. But all of that, you know, in the last 200 years, all of that history comes down to this weekend, the Bicentennial, celebrating all of that history in one place. What are some of the highlights people can expect this weekend?
One of the big things we've got going on is the opening of the time capsule from 1962, the Sesquicentennial. They buried it, and we're going to open it back up.
Making history.
Making history, display the contents all weekend for folks to enjoy, and then we're going to actually add a lot of new stuff to it and bury the time capsule again late Sunday afternoon.
Wonderful. And then we also have, of course, the parade on Saturday. All sorts of things to enjoy. You can log on to our website for a link to the full schedule of events for this weekend. Everything kicks off tomorrow at 5 o'clock. But coming up in the next half hour, we're going to sample a little bit of this cowboy cuisine and tell you a little bit about the coffee that they made on the trail.
Excellent. Well, you enjoy your breakfast there then and let us know how it is.
Yeah, at least it's not getting cold sitting out this morning. It's going to stay kind of warm.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's been 200 years, all the old ways disappeared. Steamboats and wagons brought us west. Looking back, the old ways were the best. Hey, I got 3 missed calls and a text message on my cell phone. Time to fix my profile pic on
Musicians,
Facebook.
some fun, and a lot of food. Melissa Shriver is in Hancock County Live this morning. We'll check in with her in our next half hour.
Good morning,
Time to
Melissa.
change that profile
Good morning.
pic on Facebook. Hey.
We're talking about the Old West and the cattle drives that went across the western United States. I'm joined now by camp cook Ernie, and he's been cooking up not only a side of pork, some cowboy potatoes, and our cinnamon bread this morning, but you're also the entertainment, which is kind of what they did around the campfire at night on those cattle drives.
You know, it'd get awful lonely out there on them old, long, lonely nights on the trails. And, you know, the camp cook did do a lot of the entertainment. You know, often if there was wounds, he'd kind of serve as a doctor, and just had a lot of different uses on the trail.
Plenty of teeth then pulled on the cowboy trail as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't pull a tooth or two.
Well, we're going to let you continue your playing and head on over to Wrangler Bill. Now, Wrangler Bill has been working with the camp cook this morning, and he's been doing this reenactment of sorts on the camp trail since he was a little boy. How did you get started?
Well, when I was about 4 years old, my mother was carrying my little baby brother, and so the wagon seat became my babysitter. My dad had a milk route, and we had to go out in the country and pick up milk cans and take them to the creamery. That way I was from under her feet.
Oh, that's cool. And so you said that there's a certain poetry about the wheels that has led you to reenact.
Yeah, well, when you ride these old wooden wheel wagons down these frozen ruddy roads, there's a sound to those wagon wheels you never get over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still love the sound of the old wooden wheel.
Now, if we're doing cowboy talk here, I'm going to have to put on my cowboy hat as well. And one thing that is interesting, too, he and his wife have been on a 250-mile Chuckwagon ride. What was it like? How did you feel after a 250-mile ride in a wagon like this?
Yeah, we had to go back to work. We had to come back and go to work.
A little sore, maybe?
Well, maybe a little sore. The horses were sorer than I was, or Carol.
Well, of course, we're reenacting the 1860s to the 1880s this morning in honor of the Warsaw Bicentennial celebration, which kicks off at 5 o'clock tomorrow night in Warsaw. I'm joined by one of the organizers of this big event, Joe Clark, this morning. What are some of the highlights? We've talked about the time capsule being opened, but what is another big highlight of this event this weekend?
Probably one of the biggest things we've got going on is our Bicentennial Celebration Parade on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And we are fortunate to have the 399th Army Band from Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri present and marching in their full attire. It's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime things. It truly is once in a lifetime, because all of us who are alive right now probably will never see another Warsaw Bicentennial.
This is true, so we are trying to make this the memory of a lifetime for all those that are there, and something that can be passed down to their generation and generation in the future.
Very good. Well, lots to look forward to in Warsaw this weekend for the Bicentennial celebration. We're going to have a complete list and schedule of events that you can expect on our website at connecttristates.com later on today. By the way, if you're interested in sampling a little bit of this Chuckwagon cuisine from the cowboys here at the Chuckwagon this morning, you can check that out at the Bicentennial as well. Back to you guys.
Chuckwagon cuisine doesn't come in the little box you rip open and stick in the microwave for 2 minutes either.
That's lean cuisine.
How is the coffee? Have you done the cowboy coffee yet?
I'm a little scared. You guys kind of botched me on that one. I'm scared to death. I promise you, okay, in the next 15 minutes I'll try it.
You need to try it. And you don't have to do it on live TV. Just try it and let us report
Okay,
back.
I'll do it.
There you proof that it's live TV when I go la 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 la.
Today, Dad.
Today, hot, hot, hot.